Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host. Today we're talking about Hatching, a Finnish horror film that's currently streaming on Hulu. While the film is from Finland, principal photography was done primarily in Riga, Latvia. And today we're going to talk about how this entertaining movie came together. Joining me are a panel of guests. First, the producer of Hatching, Mika Ritalahti. Mika, welcome to Below the Line.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you. Also joining us are two representatives from Mistrus Media, a film production company based in Latvia. First, executive line producer Gints Grube. Gints, welcome.
Hello.
Gints, glad you're here. We're also joined by executive line producer Elina Gedina. Elina, nice to see you.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see all of you. I'm really glad you guys could come talk about this. A warning for listeners, today's conversation may contain spoilers for the film. Nonetheless, go watch the film. Before we go anywhere near spoilers, though, let's talk about how the model for film production is different between Europe and the United States.
I guess like in Europe, the number of co-productions between various countries is quite high. So we collect the financing from various sources. And then there are like bunch of co-producers who involve in also in the artistic input on the film. The same thing is that there are regional funds, which often dictates where we are going to shoot the film. And also the languages vary a lot, depending on the language of your country. Like Hatching was made in Finnish, although we shot it in Latvia, but in Finnish in Latvia.
One major difference that shooting and filming of films is very much supported by national funds, by governments in Europe. So I think that is the biggest difference. And then comes in the co-production opportunities among different countries that is also very much supported by European unions and funds of European unions. So we have both very strong national support for producing films, plus we have European level support.
But of course, parallelly, it's also, we have not only this funding system, which is one of these main segments of EU film industry, but we also have a film market which is pretty similar to US when we have investors, or we are not working only with soft money. We're also working with streamers funding and some other investors funding. It's what we don't have the studio system, which is in US. This is main difference. I think we don't have a Universal or Paramount. We have only there is a Paramount represented in some European countries, but it is still the same Paramount.
And maybe one thing also is that the majority of the most important film festivals are in Europe. So there is a tendency of aiming for the festivals first, which may have an impact on the content as well, compared to the American films that are mostly made for the American local audience, maybe wider than European ones.
Well, Mika, in that environment, talk to me specifically about how Hatching came together.
Hatching is a co-production between like Finland, we are the major co-producer, and then there was Sweden, Norway, Belgium were on board like a co-production partners, and then we shot it in Latvia with Mistrus Media, so they were our line producing partner over there. And there was also this pan-European funding system, Eurimage was involved, and also there is a pan-Nordic financing fund, Nordic Film and TV Fund, and they were all like supporting there. The financing came from various countries, and it also meant that some of the artistical input came from those countries. Like we had costume designer from Sweden and the sound post-production and sound designer was from Norway and was done in Lillehammer, close to Oslo. So it was a combination of these artistic elements from various countries and such.
And how was the decision made to do production in Latvia?
The film takes place in Finland story-wise, so it should be something like very Nordic country, and we knew that we couldn't go very far from the Finland, but Latvia was offering very like they have a long tradition of producing foreign films in there, and we felt that we are safe doing it over there. And there is also a couple of regional funds offering financing if you go and shoot a film there. We had one in Finland as well. We applied for it, but we didn't get it. So we were looking for a suitable place, both content-wise, but also like financing-wise. The positive side we were looking for it was that, you know, when creating a horror film, and if you shoot that in a country that is not exactly yours, so maybe the Finnish audience might notice that there is something wrong in the picture, but you can't point out what is wrong, but there is some sort of a strange feeling that everything is not quite right. So this is something that we wanted to gain to do it in Latvia. You know, door handles are different, maybe something that you don't notice. You just feel that this doesn't feel like home. Obviously, this doesn't work outside Finland when nobody knows what the door handles in Finland are like.
But there's that sense of unease from things being just a little bit different for the home audience.
In Latvia, everything will be a little bit different if you are planning to shoot here.
Very true.
Gints or Elina, tell me more about what Latvia offers to a film company coming to town.
I think the good example, what was Mika mentioned already, is that and it is for it's how build a very complicated film and how to find this new solution to combine this soft money, which is coming from fundings, together with this cash rebate system, which is more or less in many European countries these days. And it helps, I would say, to make your film bigger, more interesting. It's not only for small countries, because it's a good choice to raise a budget of film and which could reach your artistic expectations. But it's also helps to work with very different nationalities and people with very different background together. And this is actually, I would say, very good synergy. It is how we always in our experience. It's not always easy. It's always also very difficult. But at the end, this synergy of these different experiences, how to make films, is really helpful, and you'll see in the results. And it also helps for us and for Mika, because everybody, as you know, everything in the film industry is based on contacts. How many people you know, from where and how, and when you work for your distribution or for looking for other partners, everybody from your team could help you with some of information or some of the contacts. It's really works perfectly, I would say, from this point of view. But yeah, Latvia is, as everybody, we had also some other films which was also completely shooted in Latvia. There was a Hungarian film, very successful, Natural Light, by Denis Nagy, first time Hungarian director, which won the Silver Bear in Berlin Film Festival, which also was co-production, but it was co-production combined with the cash rebate system together with Latvia, which really helped to make this film really bigger, to start with a smaller budget, but through this cash rebate system and through this minority funding, which we have in Europe, it's helped to make very interesting historical film about Second World War.
Well, for Hatching specifically, again, we talk about the benefits of the synergy of the crew coming together. But at the basis level, I mean, people aren't even speaking the same language. Like, what was it like to sort of put this crew together? Mika, who did you bring in? And then what did you get locally? Or were there other sources of crew as well?
We had most of those head of departments coming from Finland and Sweden, and some of them from the UK as well, those puppeteers and those special effect makeup. But the whole crew in Latvia was put together by Mistrus Media. So it was kind of a turnkey solution from them to us. Reinis Kalvins was the active line producer in there. And I don't know if those guys are the same one whom you work regularly. But for us, it was very helpful, obviously. If you go abroad to work with a foreign crew and you don't know them at all, so there is always a huge risk if you hire the right people. But when you're having a regional producer over there, then you can expect them to know those people, and so that they can put together a good crew for you that you can trust, because it's all about the trust. The shooting schedules are always so tight that there is no space for any mistakes, or always can something happen, but you need to know that there are people who are capable to face any kind of circumstances and conditions. We are extremely happy with the crew. I mean, that production in Latvia was like the best of my life. I mean, compared to the Finnish productions, the size of the crew was a bit higher, so it was like a bit bigger. There were more people on the set, but everything worked perfectly. So it was like a very smooth experience. So I'm very grateful to Mistrus Media to put this team together, and I would love to return there to do my future films again. Unfortunately, the inflation rate.
Please welcome.
Well, thank you, but I think that the inflation rate has made it a bit more difficult. That the salaries in Latvia have gone up recently, haven't they?
No, it's already down. It was just it was connected with war in Ukraine. Started from Russia last year, but it's made some influences on economics. But about the crew, I would say it's more or less is experience and psychology, because if you spend 20, 30 or 50 days together, it's a very big task of psychology, how you will work together and not to fight. Also, seriously, it's of course experience, because all these people worked before on many big international productions. They have very different experiences, how to work with big Austrian television productions, how to work with HBO TV drama Chernobyl. They have really different experiences in previous productions to provide film services in Baltics, and it's really helpful. We are relatively small, 3 Baltic countries, and it's made, I would say, some ethics of how we work.
One advantage in work coming, Finland is also a very relatively small country, and that is one of the advantages. So that if you work here long enough, you will know people, and the people will know you, and it's kind of a mutual trust. There are people who come with a big bang on the field, like new companies saying that we are the best, and then in 2 years they are gone. And same thing happens with the freelancer workers. They come, but when if they can't perform, they just lose their job opportunities, just like that, because everybody knows everyone in the film business in Finland. And the same thing with you in Mistrus Media in Latvia. So if person is not a reliable, then you don't hire him or her anymore, right?
Absolutely.
I think the main thing maybe is also to say why it is appealing to go money-wise to shoot abroad, not just the great and professional crews, which is, I think, the most essential thing. But this cash rebate system works so that for almost each euro that is left in Latvia, you can get back for your production budget or post-production budget around 40%, because we have 2 funds that are operating like that, and from one fund you can get back from 20 to 30%, and from the other from 20 to 25. This, as Gints mentioned before, this is how you can raise the budget for your film. Of course, European countries are in a way competing about those productions, like Hatching could go also to Estonia or to Poland, maybe, where there are also similar nature to Finland. But so also countries and production studios in European countries try to make their particular country the most appealing for your foreign production to be shot in.
Of course, we have a lot of fantastic locations, and it was a really good task from Finnish company to find some locations which looks like Finland but are not Finland. But I had also in my experience, I remember some producer from London asked me if we could build up streets of San Francisco in Latvia, which is not so easy. It's difficult. but we could try.
That might be a bit more of a stretch. Well, when you're talking about the locations, it reminds me of The House, which is a central location. A lot of the film takes place there. When it came to locations, door handles aside, Mika, was part of that scouting before you made the decision to go to Latvia, or are you committed to Latvia and then you're just going to find things that work?
Well, we decided that we check if we can do this in Latvia, and finding that main location, the House of Tinia, that was very, very big thing. And I think that it was not only the house, it was the surrounding, the whole kind of a neighborhood needed to look like in Finland, or what is. And there is, interesting enough, there are very big the cultural differences that you can see in the architecture. Like how different, what is the way how people like their houses to be built. So it's different. But luckily, finally, we found this one house. It was like maybe 10 kilometers out of the center of the Riga.
Very close to the center of Riga, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. But the traffic in Riga is quite heavy in the rush hours. So it really may take 1 hour to drive there. Almost, or at least back.
Yeah, that is true. If you choose the wrong hour.
Exactly, but those guys, of course, knew these hours, and the daily schedule was done so that we could travel when the rush hour was out. But it was a big thing, and I think that the location manager and the director, they worked for weeks or even months of trying to find the main location. We made several trips over there to see some possible locations, but there was also always something small that was missing or was very typically Latvian that would have destroyed the actual feeling of being in Finland.
I would just add that Hanna Bergholm, the director, she was very particular and very concrete of what she wants, and she was really paid attention to every little detail. So it was at the same time very, very hard task, but on the other hand, she knew so well what she wanted. So it made also location manager to really work to find the perfect house. And she found finally, luckily.
It was also, of course, difficult because it is a contemporary story. It is a genre film and horror film, and it's a fairy tale, but it is a contemporary fairy tale. And for us, it was, of course, challenge because we worked before on many different historical films. In this case, this was also for us very interesting to step in something which is a different area of storytelling and visuality and film style. But regarding these locations which we started, it is of course connected with history of Baltics. It's a reason why we have so bright scale of all these locations. You could find 18th century, wooden architecture. You could find Art Nouveau area. You could find, castles from medieval. You could find Soviet architecture. And I remember in last Berlin Film Festival, I was asked by many European and also from American producers who had some projects in Russia, which was completely stopped. And they started to look for the places in Baltics which could be similar from in this Soviet style architecture, which we could simulate as Russia, because as you know, cinema is always small lies, and we could lie in these locations very perfect.
So Latvia offers a lot of different architecture. You said both historical and, good point, if you were trying to film in Russia and you weren't doing that today, Latvia might be a good option. For Hatching specifically, what was the balance between locations work and stage work? And where are your stages set up? Are they in the capital, Riga, or further out of town?
The stage is set in Riga. It's not in the very center, but a little bit further from the center. But It's 5 kilometers, not 10
Okay.
from the center. So it's very close to the center. I don't remember particular how many days. Maybe Mika remembers the exact proportion of studio shots and
the upstairs of Tinia's home was built in studios, so all these like bedrooms and bathroom and the corridor, they were built in the studios. So most of the scenes where Ali the puppet is there were shot. They were, I think, all of them were shot in the studios.
Yeah, probably.
Tero's house was shot like there. We had the exterior and interior were in different places, but Tinia's home, and the downstairs were the same locations, same exterior and same interior. I think that the number of days in studios was maybe 15 or so. That was the November shooting session, and then maybe we had, or maybe it was even a bit more, and then there was like 20 something days in the locations. So it was a bit more on the locations than in the studio, as far as I remember. Elina, that's about the right
I think
figures.
it's about right. There were, I think, under 20 days on studio.
The studios are beautiful, old, very big buildings, and they really have a history and sort of a tradition over there, and I really like to work there as well. We don't have such a big sound studios available in Finland at all. I don't remember the size of it, but it was very impressive.
But we are working at the moment for new soundstage, actually, because it is really great, but it's built in 50s. There are so many productions coming in last years to Latvia that we need more sound stages as this old one, which is really practically it's great. It's have 3 good sound stages for studios.
The new sound stage, is that located in the same area?
No, it's a project. We have some options from local municipality where it could be, but it's at the moment it's a project. But I hope during the next years it could become real.
Mika, I have a question for you that's not so much about filming in Latvia, but you mentioned that the puppet work was mostly done on stage or in the studio sets. Talk to me about the balance between practical effects and visual effects for what is really the centerpiece of this film, Hatching.
I and we are great admirers of practical effects, and from the very early start we knew that there are important scenes where there is a young child, a young girl, and a creature, and we thought that, okay, obviously the girl can't be a professional actress because of the age. So we thought that we want to do as much as possible on practical effects. So we knew that we are going to build a puppet so that when she is touching the bird, there really is a real touch and real connection, and the reactions can come naturally. So we knew this from the start, and we connected to a animatronic puppet designer from UK, from London. It was actually funny, hilarious, that our director, Hanna Bergholm, she just Googled, she typed in like the best animatronic designer in the world. And there was the name of Gustav Haugen there. He had a web page, and there was just an email. So she wrote him an email that, hey, we are doing a cool horror film with a puppet. Would you be interested? And he replied, I said, yes. The thing that we didn't know by then was that he had very recently established his own kind of animatronic studios. And he was working by those days for Star Wars something, which was very different kind of a thing when you work for the studios. Obviously, you're just a very small piece in a huge machinery. So we could offer him an opportunity to really become part of the creative team. So he got excited and he made perfect puppet for us. And the funny thing is that since we needed like 5 people to move the puppet, 5 people handling those rods so that each part of puppet would move, and 2 people with joysticks controlling the movements of the animatronics movements. So it was not very intimate set over there when she was having the creature, and they were making friends. So there were like 7 person around her, dressed all in green suits, like aliens over there. On the other hand, it was good because then it wasn't scary for her, like in real scary. So, but anyhow, that was funny to be there, and then when seeing the film and all those people have been removed there digitally, so the illusion is there. And also when the puppet starts to transform gradually to become a more of a human being, and we had like 4 stages of this transformation, and we knew that the second transformation will be a dancer with a full mask. The third one would be our actress with the half face mask, and the last one will be the actress with only some prosthetics on the face. So we also wanted to have these prosthetics to be done with high quality. We knew that is essential for the film, that the quality of the puppet and the effects needs to be something that when the audience sees, they believe that this is happening for real. So we invested a lot of our financing in that, and I think it paid off. We got best. Our prosthetic designer was O'Connor, and he is Oscar nominated for. He has been working for Saving Private Ryan and those kind of big films. So really very professional. And then digitally, we did only some. We removed, of course, obviously these rods that you needed for to move the puppet, and something was done for the eye pupils of the bird to create more like emotional things over there, and then there was like the flying bird was created digitally. And
well, the creature work is fantastic throughout, and I can see how all these different elements come together. It's really seamless. Again, a highlight of the film. Are there other specific scenes or locations that were challenging or unique about this film?
I mean, for us, another key building was the house of Tero, where the mother is starting to have a relationship with Tero, and then Tero is a handyman who is renovating the building, so it shouldn't be too like new. And we wanted it also to be in tradition of some these classical horror films. So a building where you might feel that it is, not safe enough. And I don't know who knew this building, but the exterior they found was like, is it like 50 kilometers out of Riga or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. As I told, we have a lot of this wooden architecture from 19th century still existing, and it's somewhere is also protected from the government, but and it's really helps for filmmakers, for location scout people who are doing location scouting, to find some sometimes very strange examples in nowhere, in the middle of forest, and it is and it makes especially as Mika told, genre film or historical films very, very interesting because of these real locations which are not made specially for films. These are all real existing houses and locations.
For a small European film, Hatching did very well internationally.
Yeah, it did. It has been sold all around the world, and it has had a cinema release in US, in UK, in France, in Germany, and various countries. So we are very happy for that.
We are, of course, very happy about the international success of Hatching, premiere in Sundance, and it was a time when exactly this push of genre films really started. And it is, I think, Mika and Hanna and all crew could be very happy that Hatching was on this first wave of this genre film popularity, which we are observing these days in festivals, in platforms, and everywhere.
So looking ahead, should we expect more film production in Eastern Europe? Give me a sense of what's coming down the pipe.
Well, it always depends on on funding, but I think that though our national authorities were not so keen to initially to fund genre films, but now it has changed, and I think Finnish Film Foundation were ahead of time and they were funding such films, but I think now more and more also national authorities fund such films, and I think it is to be expected. And our Mistrus Media have one genre film, Samuel's Travels, that also was released in United States, and maybe Gints can tell more about this film.
Yeah, it was a film by director Ike Karapetyan, which was premiered in Fantastic Fest in Austin. It was in US distribution. A distributor in US changed the title. In US distribution, it's Squeal. It's about a talking pig and midlife man crisis, and how a foreigner is coming to Latvia and find some rural area where he could ask his more essential life questions about his past and future. But yeah, I think Finland is a specific country in this sense of humor. They are living in bigger darkness as we Latvians during this winter times. And this is probably the reason why they have a very specific sense of humor also in this visual storytelling. But yes, I think the Eastern European cinema is becoming more diverse as before. There was, of course, we still are doing lots of historical films, important historical films about 20th century, but I think there are coming more and more interesting films about these days problems and also genre film stories.
It's also like the concept of Eastern Europe is changing very radically because of the war.
Yeah, of course.
Russian used to be part of Europe, but now I don't consider them anymore to be part of the Europe.
Yeah, we just finished editing of a big historical film, which is also co-production with Lithuania, which is based on real events in Stalin Russia during the Red Terror, about origin Latvian German silent film actress Maria Leiko. She left Nazi Germany in 1934. Came to Latvia, and then in 1938 she was in Moscow, and Stalin's people offered here to start working in theater. And when the Red Terror started, then Maria Leiko and all Latvian theater and many other minorities were totally killed. But when we started this production and to work on development of this film, it was before war in Ukraine started. And there was absolutely no different context. We wanted to tell the story about this particular story about the life story of Maria Leiko. But these days, this film have more additional levels, how to live in totalitarian regime, how to be an artist in totalitarian regime, the questions about collaboration. It's really made this film more I would say not more important, but on very different level as it was planned at the beginning.
And if we talk more generally about genre films, I feel that genre film, especially horror films, they usually handle something about very subconscious level things. And it's very easy to tell big stories about like real horror, real scare, real like love and real danger in there. You don't have to like it is not in the nature of the horror films. So I think that at this time, what we are living now, people long for that kind of stories that really go to the dark side of the human mind, so that they can handle the situation and understand what's going on with us. So I think that horror film is offering a good way to do that. And on the other hand, sometimes drama films may be a bit, slower even boring. But with horror, this very seldom happens that you get bored when you watch horror.
No, it's classical, as Mika telling. It's horror films are told, especially in times when everything goes crazy around the world, and it's somehow paradoxically made. Helps people to survive in this with this cinema mythology or something like that. And I think also important aspect, I think, for when I'm thinking about our region, why I see some tendencies for very interesting genre films coming out next years, is that this connects with this our mythology. I think the Finn-Ugro mythology or Balts mythology is really rich with very crazy stories, which are very, very useful to create interesting scripts and visual imagination of our filmmakers. And this is something new, which it's not so well known in European cinema before. It's something very unique, I would say.
Well, it sounds like then, we'll expect more coming out of the region, and I look forward to seeing more of these films. On that note, we're going to call it a wrap. It was really fun talking to you guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Listeners, I always appreciate your feedback. You'll find my contact info on our website, blowtheline1word.biz. That's B-I-Z. You'll also find past episodes and links to all of our social media, so check it out. Mika, what else have you been working on since Hatching, or where are we going to see your work next?
Next horror film will be The Meyer. It's a folklore horror set in 19th century in Finland. Again, female director, female writer. Actually, the writer won an audience prize last year in Sundance with The Girl Picture. She's writing it for us, Elina, and Marika Harjusaari is directing it. It's again very strong female view on the horror and the tradition. In Finland, the female women have always been very strong, especially in those pagan religions. It was like a connection. It was a very sexual connection, like between the harvest and the female strength. There are some like very bad things coming from the forest, and they need to protect the village from them. So, but you have to wait for a couple of years, I'm afraid.
All right, well, Mika, we'll put a pin in that and we'll watch for it.
Oh, excellent.
Gints and Elina, you mentioned Squeal earlier, which is in festivals now. Tell us what other projects from Mistrus Media we should be watching for.
So we are at the moment finishing, as I told, Maria Silence film by director Travis Siemens, who is really outdoor cinema, well known in his films in so many European festivals before. Editing is finished. Now we started sound post-production and all color grading processes, and we hope that at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, the film will be finished and we could realize. But yesterday we met young student of the film academy. He came to us about horror film script, which is also a story about love and in forest. But I didn't read until yet, but I think it will be the next project. I have this feeling.
We'll watch for that as well. Once again, really glad to have everybody here. My closing credits, thanks to Curtis Five for our music, John Wan for our logo, and to all of our listeners, I appreciate you. Please rate us wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line.